All right, so obviously I'm going to be cheering for Boston in this series, but we'll see how things turn out, won't we? Uh, the Boston Bruins against the Carolina Hurricanes slash Hartford Whalers over their history, 19-11, and so for the Hurricanes, this is a matchup that traditionally they haven't fared that well in, although they have had their victories against Boston as well, and yet um, Carolina doesn't lose in round one. It's not a thing Carolina does. They just don't. And Boston's been known to lose in round one. Now, also working against Boston is that they won the President's Trophy. They won the President's Trophy in 1990. They went to the finals and lost to Edmonton. They won the President's Trophy in 2014, and they lost round two against Montreal because Montreal versus Boston is a bad matchup for Boston. So Carolina, we'll see. They met December 3rd. Yarrow Halak had a 24 save shutout, 2-0 victory for Boston. You can take that and just kind of throw it aside. I figured I'd throw that in there. That's the only meeting they had this year, so they would have had two more. But of course, what we're going through wiped that out. Now, all-time leaders, Ray Bourque is the all-time leader for the Bruins. The tragedy of that is he never won a Stanley Cup with Boston. He went to two Stanley Cup finals. Played 180 games, had 161 points, and leads the league or leads the team in both categories. On the Carolina side, games played leader is still Rod Brindamore with 72, and he's their coach now. And points leader is still Eric Stahl with 43. But there's some guys on this team that I think are going to threaten both of those marks. Carolina's legit pretty darn good. And we saw against the Rangers just how good they could be. They won three in a row, made it look relatively easy at times. And for Boston, they're still stuck in neutral. They are stuck in neutral. And there are Bruins fans who are going to watch this and say, man, they're just going to turn it on. They're going to turn it on. They're going to make it look easy. Doesn't matter. The games didn't matter. They knew the games didn't matter. They didn't care. Yeah, and down the stretch last year going into the playoffs, we saw teams that were near the top of the league playing that exact same way. And then when they were in a playoff situation against a team that had clawed and scratched to get to where they were, it was hard to ramp things up. So for Boston, they have to be careful because their top scorers, well, Wagner was their top scorer with 2 goals. McAvoy had a goal and an assist. DeBrusk had a goal, and there were 7 guys that had an assist. So, yeah. Rask was 0-2 with a 917 save percentage. Halak was 0-1 with an 862 save percentage. Power plays? Nope. No power play goals during the round robin. 83.3% on the penalty kill. Shots for, they had 31 shots per game. Shots against, they allowed 29.7. And they lost all 3 games in regulation. And now they get to go out against Carolina. And this is after they didn't look that good in the exhibition game either. And I had people saying, that game doesn't mean anything. Why are you complaining about that? All right, well, we can have this discussion after game 1 or game 2 against Carolina and see if Boston turns it on. The scoreless front, well, you got Marchand and Pastrnak that stand out as being scoreless. I'm kind of surprised Pastrnak didn't get a single point. Bergeron, I have as a breakthrough guy with an assist. There's their perfection line. No goals. The only one with an assist was Bergeron. And that's it. And again, I think we may see, if this line doesn't get things going, we may see that line broken up. And whether it's Pasta that's dropped off of it, or it's Marchand dropped off of it, or they switch out Bergeron with Krejci, whatever they do, they may have to do it quickly because Carolina is capable of getting hot and going on a run. And Carolina remembers last year. They remember that last season they lost in 4 against Boston, and that was a series that got kind of ugly. And I'm sure Justin Williams is chomping at the bit to get back at the Boston Bruins. So it's going to be interesting to see what Carolina does, because on their side, Sebastian Aho in 3 games, 3 goals and 5 assists. Svechnikov, 3 goals and 2 assists. Vatanen had 3 assists. Teravainen a goal and an assist. Nechas had a goal and an assist. And Slavin a goal and an assist for the Carolina Hurricanes. Let me just go ahead and fix that too there for Marty Nechas. So it's a pretty good attack that they have. And then in net, Mrazek was 2-0 with a 940 save percentage. Reimer won his only start with a 971 save percentage. The goaltending was pretty good. And now we find out whether Carolina was that good or the Rangers were that bad. That's the question mark. Power plays 14.3% for Carolina. That is a bit troubling, but it's still 14.3% better than Boston's was in the round robin. Penalty kill 92.9%. If they can maintain a 92.9% penalty kill against Boston, that greatly increases their chances of winning. Shots for and against, shots for 34.0 for Carolina, shots against 29.3. Scoreless in round one, Williams. A little bit surprised that Justin Williams is on that board as being scoreless. And for the breakthrough, guy who's going to maybe get some points in this round, I went with Geekie. Morgan Geekie looked good. He had 1 assist. And while I don't think he's going to achieve the kind of goal scoring that he did during his couple of regular season games there, I do think he's capable of putting something on the board. And for Boston, this is really... It's tough because I know they were the best team at the break. And I know there are people who are upset that they were, the number 1 seed and there was nobody anywhere close. And now they're number 4 after the play-in round. But again, we hadn't finished the season. We had, another 12 to 14, 15, depending on which team you're talking about, between 11 and 15, I think was the amount of games they had left. So really, Boston had to come in and prove that they deserved that spot. I understand why they had the round robin, and I don't have a problem with it, even as somebody who cheers for Boston. Now, I'm giving them the edge in offense, but that's with a caveat. That perfection line has to get going. Boston has good scoring depth. They do. Boston has very good scoring depth. I think in terms of scoring depth, I would put them ahead of Carolina. But for them to keep this offense on their side, in terms of me giving them the edge, that perfection line has to score. Otherwise, that goes over to Carolina. And you'll notice Boston doesn't really have anything else on their side. Because the defense, I can't see how I can't give defense to Carolina. How I can't give them the goaltending side of it. And no pressure. Carolina really doesn't have any. Not comparatively speaking with Boston. Boston, President's Trophy winners, expected to be pretty darn good, and they were kind of lousy through the round robin. And so now is a good time to, maybe turn that on. Tuukka Rask didn't look fantastic. Halak, not. And again, this is where, people might say, oh, well, what are you talking about? He was good. You have good goaltending, you have great goaltending. It's sort of like what the Islanders did to Bobrovsky. Where, yeah, Bobrovsky played well, but he allowed a bad goal here and there. And that's the difference between good goaltending and great goaltending. Good goaltending may allow a bad goal here and there, but he plays pretty well. Great goaltending doesn't allow that bad goal and still plays pretty well. And when you're in a playoff environment, you have a razor's edge when it comes to what you can get away with. And so Rask kind of sort of has to be perfect against Aho, Svechnikov, and Teravainen. And Boston has to find a way to get to Mrazek. They have to find a way to get to Reimer. If Reimer ends up in the net, it's going to be fascinating to watch. Because again, the goaltending I could easily throw over Boston's way based on regular season stats, but we can't go by that. The regular season ended in March, and we're now in August. So we really can't go by that. The voting on the channel is in favor of Carolina. You'll notice I'm leaning towards Carolina myself. But as a Boston fan, I hope they can prove everybody wrong. I hope that power play gets going. I hope that Marchand, Pasternak get going. McAvoy had his challenges that first round, and I have to say, the way that Torrey Krug played during the round robin, the way that Torrey Krug played during the round robin, I was stunned at how poorly overall he was playing. He's always had his challenges 5-on-5. And the fact that Boston's power play isn't clicking, it may make some of his flaws a little more visible because you're not getting that bump on the power play where you go, well, he didn't look great there, but that power play shot, that was a great one. But it really has me leaning towards, you know what, if he wants a whole ton of money, maybe it is better if Boston moves on. I never thought I'd see the day I said that. This one is one of those ones that the underdog's favored, and yet Boston showed last year they could wipe them out. But it doesn't feel like the same Boston team. And I think there are those who just expect them to just turn it. Well, they went to the Stanley Cup final last year. And how many teams go to finals in back-to-back years? It's very, very rare. And so, you know, and when you look and you say, well, how many Stanley Cup finalists have been eliminated in the first round any given year? That's more likely than going back to the Stanley Cup finals. So we'll see if Boston can overcome it. I would be interested to know if you guys think that Boston can. And again, I will be cheering that they do. I really hope that they do. But boy, did Carolina look fantastic against the Rangers. Let me know your thoughts. Hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. And hey, thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I'll talk to you again soon.